Hi guys, and welcome back to my movie channel. Today let's watch an anime about a boy who is lovelorn, but is extremely lucky to have a harem with many beautiful girls. Please click like and subscribe to my channel to support me in releasing more videos like this. Spoilers ahead, watch out and take care. Episode 1. Natsuo brings a beautiful girl to his house and sleeps with her. When he wakes up, he immediately goes to Fumiya's house to show off his feet. Fumiya then makes Natsuo tell the whole story of what happened. Natsuo talks about the party he was invited to that day. People are talking about a teacher who was transferred due to flirting with the students, but they're interrupted by Miss Hina. Looks like Miss Hina gives Natsuo special offers. At the party, everyone starts introducing their names and their schools, but there's a girl named Rui who is very strange and slow. Natsuo asks her if she's having a bad time, but Rui replies that it's because she wants to and that she's not used to group dating. Natsuo, too, considers himself a nerd. In the past, his friends had planned to rebuild Natsuo's handsome image so that he wouldn't be laughed at when he was in high school. Rui suddenly wants to escape from the group and go alone. She wants to ask Natsuo to do some work and invite him to her house. There is no one in Rui's house, and Rui leads him into her bedroom. She asks Natsuo to have sex with her, so that they can both have sexual experiences. Natsuo has a crush on his teacher and hasn't experienced sex yet, so he agrees with Rui. The two also agree on the idea that after this is over, they'll consider each other as strangers. Fumiya doesn't understand what the hell is going on. Although Natsuo was getting high when having sex, he feels extremely regretful when he wants to save his first time with a person he is secretly in love with. When going to school, friends ask Natsuo about yesterday. Natsuo goes to the rooftop and unexpectedly meets his teacher, Miss Hina. He asks why Hina comes up here alone, but Hina doesn't want to answer and changes the topic. Arriving home, Natsuo coldly greets his father and goes up to his room, sitting in front of a blank sheet of paper. The next day, friends ask Natsuo to go out, but he refuses and goes to the rooftop to meet Hina. He asks Hina what happened recently. Hina turns to look at Natsuo with a tearful face. She says the movie she watched yesterday is very touching, but Natsuo knows Hina is lying. She says this is an adult problem. Natsuo angrily clenches his fist and tells her not to treat him as a child. While the two are in a dilemma, Hina's phone rings. Returning home, he still coldly greets his father and goes to his room. While Natsuo is thinking about Rui and Hina, his thoughts are interrupted. Natsuo's father says that he will be marrying a new wife. Natsuo doesn't care about this because his mother passed away 10 years ago. The two go downstairs and his father's new wife arrives. Natsuo is even more surprised when her children are Hina and Rui. This shocks him to the point of fainting. That night, the members introduce each other. Tsukiko likes Tatsuo's father because of his sincerity. When Natsuo goes to the bathroom, Rui asks if he knew about this before. However, Natsuo doesn't expect it to turn out like this. Rui also approves of her mother remarrying because after the divorce, her mother always talks badly about her father. Rui doesn't like it, but since her mother got to know Natsuo's father, she started to become cheerful each day. When Hina's family leaves, Natsuo tells his father that he sympathizes with his decision. The father is overjoyed and even announces that he's also bought a new house. Fumiya is also surprised to hear Natsuo's story. He thinks Natsuo won't have a chance to like Hina anymore. Things have gone from bad to worse since Hina became Natsuo's teacher, and now Hina has become his family member. Natsuo's family moves into their new house. From now on, Rui and Hina also live with Natsuo. He carries his things up to his room and unexpectedly meets Rui. Seeing Natsuo shy, Rui leans into his ear and advises him to forget about that night. Natsuo still can't forget how happy he was to have sex with Rui. Hina is now wearing nothing and only a towel when she gets out of the bathroom. Turns out she forgets that they're living with Natsuo and his father. She goes in to change clothes, but Natsuo sees her sensitive parts. Hina happily drinks beer to the point of drunkenness. Natsuo doesn't know what to do when he sees the charming Hina sleeping in front of his eyes. He calls Hina to wake up, but Hina is so drunk that she mumbles that she will become a good sister. He's about to take advantage of Hina's drunkenness to kiss her when Rui opens the door and enters the room. Episode 2. Rui enters the room and drags Hina out. She says it's Hina's fault that this happened because she showed her loophole. At 8 a.m., Natsuo wakes up. He's late for school because no one else wakes him up. Natsuo comes to school with a messy head. Everyone is excited because today there'll be a new transfer student. When he goes to see who the new student is, he's surprised that it's Rui. Rui also says loudly that Natsuo forgets to bring his lunchbox when he suddenly covers her mouth. The two go down to the school grounds and Natsuo asks her why she moved here. Rui replies that it's because she doesn't want to go far. He asks Rui how they should explain to their classmates about their relationship. Rui intentionally ignores this and doesn't want to talk to Natsuo, but Natsuo's friends want to find out what's bothering him. Natsuo goes to the bathroom and looks at himself in the mirror, trying to remember what he did wrong to Rui. Hina calls Natsuo over to reprimand his messy head. He says it was because he slept in late. Hina says she told Rui to wake Natsuo up, but Rui just stood in front of Natsuo's room door and woke him up only one time. Natsuo asks Hina if she told anyone about their relationship. He thinks they have no reason to make it public. Natsuo asks his teacher if she remembers anything about what happened last night. Hina is startled and asks if the two of them were kissing. Natsuo is taken aback and denies it. Hina feels lucky that she got drunk and kissed one of her friends. When she's at home, she usually relaxes too much. At noon that day, Natsuo asks why Rui had lunch alone, and he wants to be friends with her. He wonders why this morning there were so many friends around Rui, but now she eats and plays alone at lunch. Turns out, everyone came to ask Rui, but she always replied harshly and coldly. Rui asks Natsuo to turn around so she can fix his hair. Natsuo understands that Rui doesn't want to mess with anyone. Natsuo decides to give Rui special training. The two start arguing and everyone notices them and laughs at their conversation. Everyone in the class starts to see Rui with different eyes and wants to befriend her. Natsuo takes off his clothes to take a shower, but as soon as he enters the bathroom, he sees Rui lying in the bathtub reading a book. She doesn't send him away, but invites him in. Seeing Natsuo hesitate, Rui immediately stands up. She gets naked and says she wants to have sex with him one more time. However, these scenes are just Natsuo's imagination. Rui asks Natsuo why he wanted to kiss Hina last night. She thought that Natsuo was the type of guy that could date any girl, but after today, she thought about him again. She also talks about Hina's boyfriend. Rui stands up and tells Natsuo to forget everything. The next day, Natsuo's parents will submit their marriage certificate. They plan to have dinner out and leave the 3 kids at home. Hina will take care of the family's dinner. When going to school, Natsuo continually thinks about whether Hina can cook well or not. In the afternoon, Natsuo is surprised with her cooking skills. He tastes the food and praises Hina, but the food he eats is actually Rui's making. Hina only makes salads. While washing the dishes, Natsuo asks Hina about her boyfriend. Hina immediately stops laughing and doesn't want to talk about it. She starts laughing about their hair, but unfortunately slips. Fortunately, Natsuo can successfully catch her in time. Hina's phone then rings. Hina says she'll go out for a while. 20 minutes pass and Natsuo doesn't see Hina come back home, so he decides to go out and check on her. As soon as he steps out, Hina runs into the house. She shivers and says she's fine. Outside the door, someone keeps ringing their doorbell, and Hina tells Natsuo not to open it. Rui sees the scene and coldly opens the door. Turns out their parents are returned. Their parents even bring home a cheesecake. When he returns to his room, Natsuo couldn't sleep. Episode 3 and 4. Natsuo thinks about what Hina said that night. The next morning, he goes to a coffee shop that he's familiar with. Fumiya quickly figures out that what's bothering Natsuo is Hina and Rui. Natsuo says that Hina's boyfriend asked her to go out with him yesterday, but when she returned, it seemed that there was a problem between the two. Natsuo thinks Hina feels uncomfortable with her boyfriend. Fumiya says that Natsuo's feelings right now are jealousy, and he understands this too. He has a crush on an office girl, but yesterday she went to a cafe with her boyfriend, and her boyfriend is actually his uncle, who is having an affair. Upon his return, Natsuo thanks Fumiya for helping him release his stress. Suddenly, he catches Hina talking to the man who is having an affair. Natsuo is very surprised, and he sits for a long time thinking about what just happened. Hina is working when she hears a knock on the door. Natsuo asks if she has free time to talk. Natsuo clenches his fists to muster up the courage to ask Hina if her boyfriend is having an affair. Hina denies it, and she says that there's no reason to conclude it's an affair. Natsuo repeats the words Hina's boyfriend said at the cafe. This puts an end to Hina's love affair. Hina also admits it, and she cleverly kicks Natsuo out of her room. She advises Natsuo to stop meddling in her affairs, but Natsuo takes an unexpected action. Hina pushes Natsuo away and slaps him. Natsuo immediately apologizes for his actions. While they are having breakfast, Natsuo's father runs in and says that there was an emergency. He went into Natsuo's room to wake him up, but only found a piece of paper lying on the bed. Hina is also worried about Natsuo. At the cafe, the boss Misaki allows Fumiya to leave early. Turns out Natsuo goes to Fumiya's house and is absent from school for a while. Today he received a text from his father and friends at school. Fumiya asks Natsuo about what happened last night, and Natsuo admits he made a mistake. Fumiya says that Natsuo ran away from home. Hina must have felt extremely worried. At the cafe, Fumiya gave her a better understanding of Natsuo's personality. He even gave her advice, but all to no avail. Somehow, the two rush into a fight and are reprimanded by the hostess. Natsuo says he wants to become a novelist. Fumiya also advises Natsuo to write a story about his love experience. But that night, Natsuo isn't in the mood to write. He looks out of the window and sees Rui looking for something in the rain. Rui also sees Natsuo, and she says she'll come into the room to talk to him. The two are talking when the hostess comes back and asks if Rui is Natsuo's friend. Natsuo says Rui is his sister, and she invites him in for tea. Fumiya comes home early today. Returning to his room, he doesn't understand where another person came to stay in his room. Fumiya's sister comes home from school and asks if Rui is her brother's girlfriend. Then he admits Rui is his girlfriend. That evening, Natsuo tells the whole story related to Hina. Rui also says that she also stalks Hina to find out about her sister's problems. However, Hina doesn't listen to Rui's advice and says Rui can't understand her problem. Rui thinks that she should also run away from home, until Hina asks her boyfriend to break up. The three of them then come up with a quick strategy to solve Hina's problem. That night, Rui and Natsuo come home and find the house dark. Their parents are filing for divorce because they think that the reason Rui and Natsuo left home is that they got married. Natsuo explains that it's not the reason he ran away from home. Hina kneels down and apologizes to Natsuo. Then her mother says it wasn't Hina's fault. They were the ones making mistakes. The next morning, Hina is waiting for Natsuo at the stairs to greet him. He greets Hina back coldly. When they arrive at school, he and Rui start their plan. Natsuo and Rui follow Hina because she meets her boyfriend today. Rui guesses Hina will be late 2 to 3 days a week, and today Hina also informs everyone that she'll be home late, so they make sure she goes to meet her boyfriend. Rui also knows that the two of them will be home late as well, so she also prepares fast food for them. Hina starts to move, and the two also start to follow their target. They follow Hina to a bar, but only find her drinking alone. Rui falls asleep. They must have been waiting for Hina for a long time. Natsuo watches Hina drink alone for 4 hours straight. Rui remembers that once she entered Hina's room, she saw in her sister's diary that the word SH was written in her calendar. Natsuo guesses the name of the person they are looking for is Shu. After Hina finishes her beer, she runs away in a hurry. They firmly believe that Hina is in a hurry to meet her lover. They follow Hina down to a basement. Turns out that SH means showtime. Then they see Hina walking and laughing to herself. Fumiya says that all the plans they came up with failed. However, Natsuo still feels that something is going to happen. He sees Hina restlessly searching for someone and she keeps checking her watch. However, the person Hina meets is a girl. It turns out that the reason she comes home late is because she's meeting her class student. Her plan officially fails. Fumiya comes up with a final plan. Hina takes her clothes off to take a shower. Rui steals her cell phone and enters Natsuo's room to study it. They start calling someone and saying they want to break up, but Natsuo forgets that Rui has communication problems. The man dials Hina's number again. Rui tries to answer the phone, but in the end, she can't. At the cafe, they lament to Fumiya that the plan has failed. Fumiya's boss Masaki comes over and asks what's going on. It seems that he's very interested in the dramatic love story. While they're talking, Hina and a strange man enter the cafe. Natsuo immediately stands up and demands that the man break up with Hina immediately. Angry, Natsuo grabs the man's collar, and Masaki asks Natsuo to calm down. Violence is not to be used in the cafe. Then the four of them sit at the same table to talk. Masaki even made a poster about the play, quote, "Caught for adultery." This man introduced him as Shu, 32 years old, married but with no children. He's so happy that he's dating Hina for 2 years now. He's currently working as a lecturer. Rui asks who confessed their love first. Shu admits that it was he who was at fault. Natsuo asks him if he felt guilty towards his wife for having an affair with Hina. He also feels guilty, but he still loves Hina very much. Natsuo says that Shu doesn't make Hina happy, and that Hina cries all the time. Shu immediately grabs Hina's hand and says sweet words. Natsuo gets angry, and Rui splashes water on Shu's face. Rui runs out. When she stops, she tells Natsuo that she doesn't want to see Shu's damn face anymore. Natsuo comforts her that if Rui didn't splash water on Shu's face, he'd be the one to do it. Rui feels that she was being pathetic. Natsuo comes forward and hugs Rui to comfort and apologize to her. Hina apologizes to Shu for what happened. Shu sympathizes with her and says that at that age, children have a strong sense of what is right and wrong. Also, he realizes that Natsuo likes Hina. The next morning, Hina asks Rui if she wants to go shopping with her like every year, but her question is ignored. Hina asks Natsuo's opinion, and Natsuo replies that he can't go. He'll also need to prepare gifts for himself. Natsuo tells his father that he'll visit his mother's grave first. He remembers the last time he visited his mother in the hospital and her funeral. He doesn't know what she would say if she were here. Rui and Hina also bring flowers to Natsuo's mother's grave. After breaking up with Shu, Hina feels extremely at peace. Today is also the first day Rui and Hina meet Natsuo's mother. Episode 5. Hina hates eating asparagus, and Rui is always unhappy about it. Rui loves to eat asparagus. Natsuo thinks everything has become normal. When Rui asks him why he runs away from home, Natsuo runs ahead to dodge her question. When Rui is changing her shoes, she sees strange teddy bears appear in front of her. Turns out they were made by her classmate, Momo. The teddy bears are very cute, and Momo gives Rui a teddy bear as a souvenir. Rui looks at the bear she was given, and her friends come to invite her to lunch. They realize this teddy bear belongs to Momo. They throw it in the trash and fear that this teddy bear will bring them a curse. They say that many girls broke up with their lovers after receiving gifts from Momo. They slander Momo in front of Rui. Rui stands up and picks up the teddy bear and says it's up to her to make friends with Momo or not. Another time, Momo gives Rui a keychain in the shape of Rui's face. After school, the two of them eat ice cream together. Rui asks Momo if she has any dating experience. Momo hears Rui's question and understands that Rui has heard rumors about her. Momo says that she has no dating experience. However, Momo says that she has dated about 30 boys, but she still doesn't know what a six-pack means. Momo shares with Rui that her ex-boyfriends were gentle at first, but later on they became violent. They dated many girls and used Momo's money to spend, but then no one paid her back. Momo thinks Rui is a good person, so she wants to be friends with Rui. Since then, the two have become close friends. While shopping for books, they meet Natsuo, and he's surprised that Rui also has a friend. Momo gets to know Natsuo, and the three of them share books that they read. Natsuo saves Momo from being hit by a bicycle. Momo asks Rui if Natsuo has a girlfriend, or is it okay if she likes him. While bathing, Rui recalls Momo's afternoon question. Rui also says that if Momo likes Natsuo, that's okay too. So Momo asks Rui to match her and Natsuo. The next day, Rui is going to go home early because she's a bit tired. Momo stuffs a piece of paper into Natsuo's hand and wants to hear his opinion on whether he wants to date her. In the afternoon, Rui is tired and lying down to sleep. When she opens her eyes, she also sees Natsuo sitting by the bed looking at her. She asks Natsuo why he didn't go on a date with Momo. Natsuo says he can't do that when Rui is sick. Rui wants to wipe her body and change her clothes. Rui then asks Natsuo to clean her body. Natsuo tries to keep his little boy from holding his head high by thinking that Rui is the one who is sick and his little sister. However, he doesn't stop the scene and the two of them make love. When he opens his phone, Natsuo sees a message from Hina. She has Natsuo take care of Rui because she comes home late. Rui asks Natsuo if he likes anyone because Momo is in love with him. But whenever she thinks about Natsuo and Momo dating each other, Rui can't accept it. Natsuo seeks help from relatives and takes a pill, perhaps a miracle drug used to stuff into the butt when being sick. Everyone then sees Rui's fever drop and they all feel very happy. Her parents are very happy that the three of them know how to take care of each other. The next day at school, Natsuo finds Momo waiting for him. Some friends see the two talking to each other, and they tell Natsuo that Momo is a very easy girl, and that they had sex with her before. They even mention Momo's weird teddy bears and advise Natsuo not to interact with her too much. That afternoon, Momo makes a lot of food to share with Natsuo. Natsuo feels that Momo is a great girl, and he's like an asshole. Momo takes Natsuo's hand and asks if he wants to come up to her house in the afternoon. Upon arriving at Momo's house, Natsuo discovers that she has never kissed anyone. Momo pushes Natsuo onto the bed and takes off her shirt. Natsuo's phone beeps when a message arrives, and Momo immediately stops. He gets a message that everyone will be home late tonight, so Rui asks Natsuo if he wants her to cook anything. Momo says that it's been a long time since she's eaten together with family, since her parents are away for work a lot. Natsuo sees the scars on Momo's wrist. It turns out that Momo once had suicidal thoughts. Natsuo stands up to get dressed and asks Momo if there's a supermarket nearby. When he returns to Momo's house, Natsuo cooks noodles for her. He also says that whenever Momo feels lonely, she can call him. Momo then bursts into tears. She says that when boys see her undressing, they always distance themselves from her. This is the first time that she felt warmth. Natsuo says that he decides not to date Momo because he thinks it would be better for her to date someone that she could rely on. Episode 6. On the rooftop, Natsuo is thinking about writing his novel and meets Reiji sensei smoking a cigarette. Reiji knows it's now Natsuo's self-study time. Seeing the novel in Natsuo's hand, Reiji praises Natsuo for seriously self-studying. The teacher asks him who his favorite author is. Natsuo says that he likes the author Hasakawa Yu. Hearing the name of Natsuo's favorite author, Reiji says that he and Natsuo get along very well. Reiji then asks Natsuo to go home to learn more about the novel. Rui has just come out of the bathroom when she meets Natsuo. She wants to ask him a favor. Rui wants to join a club and wants him to go see it with her. She says that Momo is happy when Natsuo cooks for her, even though he never does it at home. Natsuo remembers that yesterday Rui had to stay home for dinner alone. Natsuo asks his friends about Line. They want to ask Natsuo to go out, but he refuses. He has to go with Rui to see some school clubs. In the end, Natsuo's friends also follow him to meet Rui and go to the sports club. Here, the boys are free to look at pretty girls wearing bikinis. Natsuo's friends just want to go to the sports club, so now it's just the two of them going to the literature club. However, there's no one in the room. Natsuo notices that there are many good books on the bookshelf. He borrows a book here. The next time he comes to return the book, he accidentally sees Reiji being intimate with a female student. Natsuo hurriedly leaves, but is discovered. The female student tries to explain that she just sees an eyelash touching Reiji's eyes and she was trying to take it out. Seeing Natsuo's red face, they guess that Natsuo was thinking about something stupid. Seeing the book in Natsuo's hand, Reiji immediately introduces Natsuo as a new member of the literature club. The girl introduces herself as Miyu, the head of the literature club. The literature club already has enough people, so it's officially established. Natsuo is responsible for distributing flyers about the club. Literature clubs have few members. It just has the name of a club, but it's not allowed to participate in school activities. Natsuo distributes flyers when he meets Rui. He says that when he returned the book, something unexpected happened. Reiji sensei even completes Natsuo's application to the club, and from now on, Natsuo becomes an official member of the club. After handing out the flyers, Natsuo runs over to Miyu to see how well she is doing. The next day at school, Natsuo finds a letter in his locker. It turns out to be a summons letter from the club. There, Reiji asks Natsuo about the content of the novel that he wants to write. Natsuo wants to write love novels, but he has no experience, so he asks Reiji for help. Reiji sensei tells Natsuo to kiss Miyu to gain more experience. Natsuo is confused, and Miyu immediately agrees. With no other choice, Natsuo is about to kiss Miyu, but when he sees her crying, he stops. He says he couldn't do it when he sees Miyu being forced. He hands the handkerchief to Miyu. Reiji says it's okay for him to do so because he wants to know Natsuo's personality. He asks Natsuo to bring him the novel he writes at home next time. Natsuo does as Reiji asks. Hina says that Reiji's behavior is a bit strange, but he is a teacher, so he can help Natsuo improve his writing skills. Rui says she'll probably join the literature club, which surprises Natsuo. Natsuo tells Miyu that their club is about to have a new member. This news makes Miyu very happy. She takes out candy and gives it to Natsuo as her appreciation. At the library, they're asked to keep quiet, so they write down notes to pass to each other. After school, Momo also follows Natsuo and Rui to join the club. Natsuo leads them to the club and introduces them to Miyu. Miyu also knows about Momo through her test scores, not rumors. They then talk about the book Natsuo lent to Miyu yesterday. On Sunday, Rui goes to the cafe to relax, and she begins to care about things that she didn't care about before. The owner of the cafe, Misaki, tells her that he used to be the vice president of a notorious gang, and during a meeting with another gang, he fell in love with the girl. When Natsuo gets home, Hina is waiting for him. She thanks Natsuo for helping her keep the secret, so next Sunday, she wants to invite Natsuo to go somewhere. Episode 7. Hina takes Natsuo out on Sunday as promised. The place they go is a tourist destination. They go out to eat together in the afternoon, and while on the beach, Natsuo asks Hina about her first love. Hina's first love was her teacher in high school. There was a girl in the class who liked her class monitor. However, this boy often talked to Hina, so the female students were jealous. They got together and talked bad about Hina because she was prettier than them. In the biology lab, she was sad and crying because her friends said bad things, but luckily Shu appeared and made her laugh. From then on, she went to the lab every afternoon to talk to him. Hina accidentally met Shu again in her 4th year of college, but she saw the ring on Shu's hand. Natsuo understands Hina's sadness. He puts himself in her situation to write the novel. He says that his novel was inspired by Hina. He also says that he likes her so much. Hina understands Shu's feelings, and she promises to keep this secret. She then takes Natsuo's hand and goes to the sea. Natsuo asks Hina what happened. Hina says that the two of them will die together, because if the matter between them is known, they'll be condemned by the whole society. Natsuo then hugs Hina tightly and cries. That night, the two go home and wear a couple t-shirts because their clothes are wet. That evening, they both feel sad. The next morning, Hina gives a lecture, but Natsuo pays no attention to her lecture. Momo goes out to talk to Natsuo again before Rui. That night, Rui goes to Natsuo's room. She comes here just because she wants to talk to Natsuo. Rui wants to try kissing again, but Natsuo is embarrassed. She says that he took the initiative to kiss Hina, but doesn't want to kiss her. Natsuo says that they're already a family, and doing this is like committing suicide together. Natsuo still kisses her. Rui asks if there is a next time, will they secretly kiss like this? Natsuo gives her the answer and makes her feel at ease and shakes off all her worries, and Rui leaves his room. The next morning at school, Natsuo yawns continuously. He goes to the library and meets Miyu. Miyu tells him that she has found the book that she tried to find before but couldn't find it. In this book, there's an article that Miyu wrote. Miyu writes about love stories. In addition, she often writes short stories about mysteries, science fiction, and ghost stories. The two are chatting happily when Momo and Rui go to the library as well. They think badly of Natsuo that he comes to meet with Miyu privately. Natsuo denies it and reminds them of the book club and then talks about the plan. At the same time, Reishi also arrives and is impressed with the way that they discuss the books. Reishi reminds them about the final exam coming up. This test will have a fairly broad topic, so he doesn't want them to affect their academic performance because of working for the club. At home, Natsuo asks Hina to help him study for the upcoming exam. That evening, they study together, and Rui says that Natsuo doesn't concentrate on his studies because he's thinking about Miyu. Natsuo denies that and says that they all misunderstand him. That night, Natsuo thinks that Rui doesn't need to say that in front of Hina. Therefore, he goes to Hina's room, but finds her masturbating and calling Shu's name. Natsuo is so shocked that he drops the book on the ground. Hina goes out to check, but finds nobody there. Natsuo breathes a sigh of relief from being undetected. The next morning, Hina greets Natsuo. Natsuo looks at her finger and blushes. Exams are also coming back, and Reishi congratulates them, as they all did well. Natsuo notices that his test is graded by Hina, and he looks out the window. Episode 8. Natsuo has more time with Hina while on vacation, but he feels something a little different. Natsuo goes to the library to look for reference books. Rui is folding clothes when she asks Natsuo about her loss of underwear, but Natsuo doesn't know anything about it. He's going to ask Rui to go to the library with him, but she's busy with housework. Plus, she has enough books to read this summer. No one is at school and only Natsuo is here. He's by a bicycle. Turns out this person is his classmate, Alex. The two of them go to the coffee shop and Misaki asks about Alex moving from abroad to Japan. At this time, Misaki says that recently the police reported about a pervert stealing girls' underwear. While talking, Natsuo notices something climbing out of the house through an electric pole. Alex realizes that he's the pervert who's been stealing underwear and chases after him. Natsuo stops him. Alex jumps up to kick the pervert and drags him to the police station. At the police station, they meet Rui again. She comes here as the victim. Alex finds Rui very cute and asks Natsuo if he can like Rui. When they get home, Rui talks about the pervert, but Natsuo only pays attention to Alex's words. Hina is worried about Natsuo because he just caught the perverted criminal. Just as Natsuo thinks, Hina has changed. While cooking, Natsuo tells Rui that Alex wants to go on a date with her. Rui angrily puts down the knife and leaves. Natsuo brings Rui food and apologizes for his words. Rui says that if he wants to apologize, then he has to do something for her. Natsuo then kisses Rui. His hand unconsciously places itself on Rui's chest. However, Rui doesn't mind his actions. While the two are passionately kissing, Hina enters Rui's room and sees everything. Natsuo wants to run after Hina to explain, but she won't believe anything he says. Rui goes to Hina and explains that it was her who took the initiative, not Natsuo. She also admits that she likes Natsuo and says that they are not blood related. The next day, Alex is deeply saddened by Rui's rejection of his feelings. At this time, Natsuo feels extremely tired because of his family matters. Alex advises Natsuo to have a clear talk with him. That night, while Hina is in her room, Natsuo stands outside the door to talk to her. Hina asks if he likes Rui, but Natsuo still doesn't know his feelings right now. However, he says that his feelings have never changed since going to the beach with Hina. The next morning, Hina tells her family that she wants to move out of the house. Her parents ask if it was their fault, and she shakes her head. Natsuo's father also suggests that the family attend the festival before Hina leaves to live on her own. At the festival, Rui tells them that they should refrain from kissing. There, they also meet some of the staff at Misaki's cafe. Misaki stands on a tower and beats a drum. Hina goes fishing but drops her phone. Natsuo goes out to meet Hina and leads her into the forest because he wants to talk privately. Natsuo asks if the reason Hina moves out is because of him. Hina dodges his question. He says every time Hina lies, she looks at the ground. Natsuo promises not to do that stupid thing again. Hina says it's not like that and actually thinks this action of hers is very necessary. Hina tells Natsuo to go away, but he still follows her. They run into Misaki again by chance. Natsuo asks him to hold Hina's hand. Misaki reminds Hina to calm down like an adult. This time, a little boy gives her candy to calm her down. Their mission is done, and they leave. Hina tells Natsuo that she's jealous of Rui when she sees the two of them kissing. She wants to leave the house before she crosses the line. Natsuo then hugs Hina tightly. Episode 9. Hina still hasn't given up on moving out. She wants to make space for Rui and Natsuo. Rui sits idly on the sofa, and her mother knows the reason that Hina wants to move out. She advises Rui to go out to relieve her emotions. Rui goes to a bookstore and meets her teacher, Reiji. This time, Reiji is accompanied by Shu, on whom she splashes water. She looks at Shu with hostile eyes. Shu tells her that he hasn't contacted Hina for a long time. They go to Misaki's cafe. Rui wants to anger Shu, so she orders an expensive ice cream. Shu keeps apologizing to Rui, and he says he's divorced from his wife. They divorced because their personalities didn't match, not because of Hina. Rui asks why Shu doesn't contact Hina when everything is fine. Shu says that things won't be okay if the two of them keep moving towards each other. Rui's ice cream is served. She also thinks Hina has changed and tells Shu about her moving out of the house to live alone. Rui thinks it's her fault that Hina moves out. Shu says that if everything is said by Hina herself, then it's her intention. He advises Rui to talk to her sister. That night, Rui enters Hina's room and lies on her lap. She doesn't want Hina to move out. If Hina wants something, Rui will try to do what she wants. Even if she doesn't like Natsuo, Rui can do it. Hina pats Rui's head and says she doesn't need to change anything. She wants to move out because she wants to. Natsuo thinks about going to Hina's new place. When he gets home, he finds a key. This is probably the key to Hina's new place. He thinks everyone is trying to challenge him. Natsuo leaves his room and finds Rui standing in front of Hina's empty room. Feeling so empty, she hugs Natsuo tightly. Natsuo says everyone will try to make Rui happy and not feel alone. That night, Rui makes Natsuo's favorite dish, but Natsuo goes out and doesn't eat dinner. He stands in front of Hina's house. He takes the key to open the door and enters her house on his own. Hina wakes up and is startled to see Natsuo. She was very tired while packing. Natsuo says he already gets the answer. He doesn't hesitate to die with Hina. Hina also feels extremely happy when she hears Natsuo say that. They understand each other's feelings and then kiss. Natsuo pushes Hina onto the bed and says this is his first kiss. They are about to take another step forward, but Hina stops Natsuo. She doesn't want things to happen too quickly. She wants this relationship to take place slowly and carefully. Summer vacation has ended. Alex is happy to see Natsuo again and shy when he sees Rui. Knowing that the two of them are in the literature club, he wants to join as well. They go to the library to meet Reiji, who also agrees to let Alex into the club. Because if the club has 5 members, it will be promoted and will be sponsored by the school for club events. Natsuo meets Hina in the hallway. She seems to miss the other students very much. Natsuo wants to meet her to talk about their relationship. Hina drags Natsuo to a private place and says she wants to be careful in this relationship. When the headmaster passes by, Hina pulls Natsuo down to hide, or they play the kissing game again. Episode 10. The two of them kiss all day long, even while cooking. School clubs organize events together. In the evening, everyone sits around the fire together. In the literature club, they see that the work they wrote is very successful, so they decide to set up the next volume, but Reiji has been absent for 3 days already. Knowing that the teachers don't get that much time off, Miu proposes to visit Reiji. Welcoming them to Reiji's house is a beautiful girl. They are extremely curious about the relationship between this girl and Reiji. It turns out that the reason Reiji didn't go to school was that he lacked sleep. Natsuo asks Reiji about the girl who opened the door to let him in. Reiji says that she's his editor because he's a novelist. This surprises Natsuo greatly. Reiji asks Natsuo if he needs an amateur author award because Reiji Sensei is working in the same magazine that advertises the work of authors. Natsuo is surprised by Reiji because his teacher is Hasekawa Yu. He was so happy that he couldn't sleep. He also knows that Miyu is glad that the editor is not Reiji's girlfriend. Miyu shyly nudges Natsuo and makes him fall down the stairs. Hina goes to visit Natsuo, but he only broke his legs. He says that with this condition, he couldn't go to Hina's house. Rui watches Natsuo eat her dish and feels happy that he broke his leg. Natsuo doesn't understand why, but Rui kisses him. She says that because Natsuo has broken his leg, he'll stay at home more in the evenings and eat the food that Rui cooks. The next day, Natsuo's class is crowded with people, and it turns out that Miyu is banging her head on the ground, begging Natsuo to forgive her for breaking his leg. While Natsuo is taking a shower, Rui comes in without clothes. She's here to help him shower. While bathing Natsuo, Rui tries to get the soap, but grabs Natsuo's little boy. Masaki learns about this and laughs. Because Natsuo has broken his leg, he can't go to his cafe. Rui tells Fumiya that because Natsuo broke his leg, he can't go to Fumiya's house anymore either. Fumiya then says that Natsuo hasn't been to his house for a long time. Back home, Rui asks Natsuo where he's been all these evenings because Fumiya denies Natsuo coming to his house. He lies that he's been going to Momo's house. Rui sadly tells him that the next time, if he is invited to Momo's house, he should let her know. That night, Natsuo calls Fumiya to talk about how he lies to Rui to go to Hina's house. In the library, Natsuo takes out Hina's picture. Rui stands by and asks why Natsuo comes home so early. He says he wants to go over to Fumiya's house. However, he ends up going to Hina's house anyway. Natsuo says he'll bathe at Hina's house, and of course, Hina agrees. Just as they're about to take another step forward, the doorbell rings. Rui enters Hina's house. She stands in front of Natsuo, then cries and leaves. Hina asks what Natsuo said to Rui. He lied to Rui about going to Fumiya's house for dinner. Natsuo comes home and asks his father where Rui is, but his father doesn't know. Fumiya calls Natsuo and says that Rui is at his house, and because of the heavy rain, Rui's clothes are all wet. When Natsuo goes to see Rui, he gets a slap from her. Natsuo apologizes that he can't use crutches and an umbrella at the same time. Rui tells Natsuo that she read his novel, which is about a student who falls in love with his teacher who already had a boyfriend. Natsuo also admits everything to Rui. Episode 11. Natsuo and Rui come home with wet clothes. They lie to their parents that they went out for a walk and Natsuo fell. Rui helps Natsuo up the stairs and returns to her room. Natsuo thinks back to what he said to Rui. He liked Hina before his father and their mother got married. In the future, Natsuo wants to be with Hina, and Rui kisses him one last time. When Natsuo goes down to eat, his mother says that Rui has prepared the food. Right now, she's in the bathroom crying alone. The next day, Natsuo complains that Rui's cooking is delicious. Rui tells him that she'll hate him from now on and that not liking anyone is a form of self-defense. The teacher informs the class about a trip and that everyone can bring their swimsuits along. Hina asks Natsuo about Rui because she texted her sister, but she didn't reply. Natsuo admitted everything to Rui, and she's hated him ever since. In the literature club, Reiji announces that the honorary recipient of the award is Rui. This makes Natsuo a bit sad, and everyone congratulates her. After school, Miyu says that she was also devastated when she didn't receive the award and that she thinks Natsuo was too. She advises Natsuo to use his failure to gain experience. Natsuo finishes picking up the book and goes to Reiji's house to apply for a job as an apprentice. Reiji isn't in the mood, but Natsuo still tries to enter his house. He tells Reiji that he was shocked that he didn't receive the award and thought he had no talent. Reiji tells Natsuo that Rui once went to see him and she wanted to turn down the literary award. Even if he doesn't have the talent, he still can become a writer if he tries hard enough. Natsuo's question isn't worth answering, and Reiji is surprised that Natsuo thought he'd give up writing when he thought he wasn't talented enough. Reiji advises Natsuo to fight with himself to continue writing. When he gets home, he congratulates Rui because she received the award. However, Rui feels unhappy about that. Natsuo thinks back to what Reiji Sensei has said, and he feels like he hasn't tried hard enough. The next day, Natsuo takes the book Reiji gave him and continues to write. Natsuo comes to give Keiji a short story he's written. People get to choose how they travel on the trip. Rui and Natsuo sit on different buses. During the picnic, she doesn't appear next to him. While eating, Alex is drunk, so he kisses Natsuo, which makes the two become the focus of everyone else. On the beach, Hina is playing volleyball when Rui wants to come talk to her. Rui says that this bikini is not suitable for a teacher like Hina. Hina is happy to see that Rui is willing to talk to her and that she'll break up with Natsuo. Rui says she's okay because she already hates Natsuo anyways, and if the two break up, her feelings won't change. Rui advises them not to break up. Natsuo's friends deeply regret not being able to see the girls in swimsuits anymore. Hina wants to meet Natsuo via text message, and tonight when the fireworks show starts, Natsuo comes to Hina's room as planned. The two speak at the same time. Hina wants to break up and Natsuo wants her to be more serious in the relationship. Hina doesn't want this relationship to develop any further, but Natsuo strongly opposes this. He wears the ring that he bought at the souvenir shop for Hina. Natsuo wants the relationship to continue. He promises to find a nicer gift for Hina and to marry her. The two sleep together and Natsuo tells her that he's seen her masturbating and calling Shu's name. The next day, the headmaster invites Hina to his office to talk. He shows Hina a photo of her and Natsuo kissing. Episode 12. Hina freezes when she sees this photo. He says this is a picture the cameraman took when they were taking graduation photos for the students. She confirms that the people in the photo are Hina and Natsuo. This hasn't been made public yet, but they need to confirm it with Hina. Hina kneels in front of the headmaster and says that she accepts all forms of discipline from the school. At the end of the winter break, Hina goes to the podium to announce that she is transferring to another school, and this surprises everyone. Natsuo wants to call Hina to ask about it, but couldn't reach her. He then asks the other teachers, but receives dismissals. Hina stands on the rooftop and hears footsteps. She thinks it was Natsuo, but it's Reiji. Reiji talks about Natsuo's novel and has doubts about their relationship. Reiji says that Shu also had feelings for a student. Hina thought that she should consult Reiji and Shu. Natsuo runs to Hina's house but doesn't find her. Her belongings are also moved. Then he sees a letter left by Hina. These are Hina's last words to Natsuo and say that it was all over of her own free will, adding that their relationship was discovered by several people. At the same time, Hina also gets into the car and carries her luggage. Rui goes to Masaki's cafe and says Natsuo isn't coming home, and he's just staying at the house Hina used to rent. Hina has been gone for a week, but Natsuo keeps hiding in his room and refuses to do anything. Fumiya visits Natsuo and advises him to face this. Natsuo understands what Hina wanted to say, but he feels extreme helplessness. Rui stands outside the room and hears everything. The next day, Natsuo goes to see Mr. Reiji and takes a break from writing short stories for a while. Reiji agrees and advises him to write a long novel. Hina's mother asks a detective to find her whereabouts. However, they decided to keep it a secret because they know about Hina and Natsuo's relationship. Rui brings tea to Natsuo and finds out he's skipping meals again. Rui goes to the cafe to talk about Natsuo's current situation. Masaki says that he'll make an appointment to meet Natsuo at the public bath. Masaki has a large tattooed dragon on his back. He says that if Natsuo takes a long bath here, he'll feel refreshed. In the shower, he talks about his family and the gang that they were in for generations. However, he decides to sever all ties with his family and to have freedom that he always wanted. Because of this, he missed his father's funeral. Masaki advises Natsuo to take the time to hold on to what he has. That night, Rui brings food to Natsuo's room, and he says her food is delicious. Then he works hard to write his own work. Everyone sees that Natsuo is fine. He also finishes his work and wants Rui to read it. A new year has come, and everyone goes to the festival together. Rui calls her club friends to come with her and Natsuo. Natsuo wants to show Reiji his work, and then they decide to go to Reiji's house. Reiji doesn't understand why these students come to his house and say bad things about him in the beginning of the year. Reiji read Natsuo's work and was impressed with it. Reiji makes an appointment this Sunday with someone who wants to meet Natsuo. The person who wants to meet him is Niz. He's impressed with Natsuo's talent and wants to kidnap him to the literary and artistic awards ceremony. It turns out that Reiji had secretly submitted Natsuo's work to his contest. Natsuo's work is noticed by many people. He also thanks Niz for helping him edit the book. When he gets home, he sees Hina's long hair, but this girl is Rui. It turns out that Rui wants to make a long story, so Momo lent her this wig. Rui bursts into tears and runs into the bedroom. Natsuo says he received the first prize in the Shinkosa Literature Award, and the prize is worth 300,000 yen. Rui starts crying because she thinks Natsuo is hugging her because she looks like Hina. Rui then asks Natsuo if he's had sex with Hina. Rui presses Natsuo on the bed and kisses him. She says she'll never give him to Hina again. Alright guys, that's the end of my video. Like and subscribe to watch more like this, and don't forget to turn on the notifications so you'll get an alert when I next upload. This really supports my channel. Thank you again for watching, and goodbye for now.